Okay, this is feedback for task 2B. This was the work set over the Easter holidays. Task that we found here, Easter homework 1. Okay, so for a pass it was to describe the requirements of working to a brief, and for a merit it was explain the requirements with examples, and distinction was to comprehensively explain. So the idea was to explain how and why these things need to be taken into account using examples of your experience. So if we have a look through, this is saying there was a meeting, this is saying the name of the client. If we just look at what Lawrence is tackling here, it is about explaining how and why you need to consult with the client, as in what the purpose is. So if we look through, we have to sit in our creative teams, negotiate the facts. Okay, so what we've got here is examples and a kind of almost like a log of what was said and the concerns. What we don't have, however, is any explanation of how or why consultation with the client needs to be taken into account. So unfortunately, it doesn't describe the requirements or explain the requirements. What it's doing is just giving examples from your own experience of what you did. So the concern here is it's not instructional in its written style. Again, if you look at the post that was set for homework, you'll notice, which was back in March, because it was before Easter, and it was called Easter Homework 1. And when you click on that link, you'll see at the bottom that I've given you a variety of exemplars that previous students have written. Now, on those exemplars, you will see that the actual style that they've written is instructional, where they're kind of explaining what's going on, as opposed to just talking about what they did. There we go, so it's Easter Homework 1, Task 2B and 2C. And once we click onto that, we'll see down the bottom here, depending on the type of brief that the client and production company are working with, there will always be a consultation with the client. So you can see here that this is explaining here. This is explaining what's happening. And again, if you look all the way down, there's exemplars for every single question that you have to deal with, plus there's a second piece of work here, and you get to about 11 onwards, where you can see another student has done the same thing. Yeah, and again, if you look at this, it's interesting to notice that they have talked about why is it important to do this. Yeah, so it's explaining using a kind of instructional approach. Yeah. So if we move on to the second question, unfortunately, because of that, it doesn't really cover that criteria. It certainly doesn't meet those. So in regards to that one, that would be an MYA. So that will prevent your work from passing in terms of that outcome from Lawrence. Second thing you're writing about is the degree of discretion interpreting the brief. Now the problem is, with the way we've laid this out, we've just put question 1, question 2. They're not subheaded. So again, I wouldn't be able to pass you for that because it's not clear to the moderator exactly what it is you're talking about. So that's why you've been given these separate headings to separate and head up your work. So the second one is about the degree of discretion in interpreting the brief. Yeah, so the nature and demands using that language. Yeah, talking about what discretion is, talking about why it's good to have some discretion, why it's also bad to have unlimited discretion. Using the resources you've been given here about the degree of discretion. So on this one, so this is good, you're talking now in a different style to this. You're talking a bit more instructionally, you're talking about what discretion is. Okay, so we've got an example here. Yeah. So what we don't have though is any of the why it's a good thing to have a lot of discretion with the brief, or why it's not. So I'd probably say at the moment it's a pass because you've described what discretion is. You've given an example. It's kind of bordering on a merit then. But yeah, if you want a higher grade, like a higher merit or distinction, you'd have to comprehensively explain it. So that would be going through and talking about why it's a good thing to have discretion. Yeah, and we did talk about this in class. So again, look back at your notes because that's why you take them. Yeah, and talk about what was the experience like. If you didn't have much discretion, then you need to kind of talk about that in here. Okay, question 3 again. I don't have a heading, so you would need to copy and paste the heading that we've got here, which I presume is the constraints one here. Okay, and going back to this, before the time comes to making swing. Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah. So what I don't have here is any examples, as in anything in your ideas that would cause some legal, ethical, or regulatory conditions. So when you're talking about once us and the other groups were making idents to represent the college in a respectful way that does not offend the audience in a religious way. So again, there needs to be, as you can see in the examples that are posted on here, specific kind of things like the Data Protection Act. There needs to be things like where are we? If we go down here, we've got copyright, it's a bit of an issue as well. So ethical sort of things that you might want to consider. Basically, I think you just need more detail specifically to your idea. So if you're representing different ethnicities, that kind of stuff. Also, you've got copyright issues as well. Again, if you look at the exemplar where they talked about copyright, you can see here that there you go, that section there is probably going to be quite important for yours. Obviously don't copy it word for word. But this one has the correct style because it seems to be more instructional as to why this stuff is important. Okay. So again, probably give you sort of pass merit for that. I think you need examples from your work to secure the merit. Again, question 4, we should have the actual heading on there, so that's a concern. We're presuming we're talking about amendments to the final production. Yeah, that's good, that's instructional style, so well done, Dan. Yeah. So again, what we need here is what the amendments actually are going to be in your work. So what actually has been amended, yeah? So is it the budget that you've changed? Is it about how long it's going to take to produce it? Is it about how you're going to approach filming it, as in doing it back to back? So again, this doesn't have the examples because there's no kind of detail on there. Yeah. So I'd only be able to say probably a pass for that first section. Again, it's quite difficult to read because the fonts are all different and it's all over the shop, so this needs presenting better. I wouldn't be able to give you higher grades just simply from the presentation. Yeah, I mean, on that video, there's loads of examples that you could have put in. So again, it's a pass really because there aren't any on here. Question 5, amendments to the budget. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Okay, so there's some examples in there that you've discussed. Again, if you talk about budget, yeah, you've kind of talked about that. You want to put something in here about why it's important to get these amendments to the budget out of the way when you meet the client, simply because obviously you can't do that afterwards because they've already agreed a budget with you. So that's the kind of instructional bit. The rest of it's kind of examples otherwise. So you need to think about here saying that you've got to get that done in advance. And then finally, Rosie, this is, I'm not sure what question or subheading this is. I presume that you're doing the reading the brief one. I mean, looking at that, I'd say that doesn't have anywhere near the content that it ought to, so that would be MYA for that section. If you're doing this bit here about, again, there's no subheading for it, so it's very difficult for me to actually suss out what it is that you're writing about there. As a group, we all had to read the brief carefully to make sure we understood the requirements. When speaking to the client, we discussed it. So again, this is just like a kind of commentary on what you did. There's no instructional or explanation on there. The only subheading that's left that I can see is amendments to conditions. So if we have a look through here, yeah, again, just going back, amendments to the final product. Again, you can talk about them using sign-off sheets here and the form of security and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, yeah. So this doesn't seem like Rosie's section at all to me. There's nothing in here about the changes that you wanted to bring in. So at the moment, you know, the work is, so it's roughly up to sort of pass standard, mainly because of this first section here from Lawrence. you need to put in the correct subheadings, otherwise I can't give you more than a pass because it's not a proper report. And also, Rosie, at the moment, I think your contribution is minimal. It's MYA really. It doesn't say anything and it doesn't really address any of the headings. So thanks very much.